protein myths that are keeping you fat. For years, calling any macronutrient magic sounded like fitness industry nonsense. It felt like marketing hype, another oversimplified promise designed to sell supplements or programs. But when you strip away the noise and actually look at the data, the anecdotes, and decades of coaching experience, one uncomfortable truth keeps showing up over and over again. If there is a magic macronutrient, it's protein. Not magic in the sense that it defies biology or replaces effort, but magic in the sense that it improves outcomes across almost every fitness goal imaginable. Fat loss, muscle gain, endurance, recovery, longevity, energy, body composition, even appetite control. No matter what direction someone is trying to go, increasing protein intake properly and consistently almost always moves them closer to their goal. And yet, most people still underestimate it. Essential versus optimal, where the confusion starts. One of the biggest sources of misunderstanding around protein comes from how it's discussed publicly. Dietitians often point to the RDA, recommended dietary allowance, which is designed to prevent deficiency, not to optimize performance, body composition, or recovery. The average Westerner is not protein deficient in a survival sense. Most people aren't falling apart because they're only eating 60 to 80 grams per day. If you're a 170-pound man eating 65 grams of protein, you'll survive just fine. You'll function, but you'll be operating far below your potential. There's a massive difference between essential and optimal, and protein lives in that gap. When protein intake rises toward roughly 1 gram per pound of body weight, or target body weight for those with higher body fat, the body starts behaving differently. Muscle retention improves, recovery accelerates, hunger signals calm down, training adaptations amplify. This isn't theoretical. It's been demonstrated repeatedly in both controlled studies and real-world coaching. Protein and fat loss. Why more calories can mean less fat. At first glance, protein-heavy diets seem counterintuitive for fat loss. Protein has calories. If fat loss requires a calorie deficit, why would eating more of something help? The answer lies in how protein interacts with the body. When researchers compare 2 calorie-matched diets, one high protein and one lower protein, the high protein group consistently loses more fat and preserves more muscle. That muscle preservation matters more than people realize. Muscle is a metabolically active tissue, and keeping it means higher energy expenditure and better long-term fat loss outcomes. But there's another powerful effect: satiety. Protein is the most filling macronutrient. For many people, dramatically increasing protein intake causes appetite to drop naturally. Calories decrease without conscious restriction. Cravings fade. Portion sizes shrink. Hunger becomes manageable instead of constant. In an environment where food is everywhere and willpower is constantly tested, anything that naturally regulates appetite is invaluable. The identity trap around food. Food discussions rarely stay objective for long. Carbs become evil. Sugar becomes toxic. Fat becomes dangerous. These narratives turn eating into an identity battle instead of a practical decision. Protein cuts through that chaos. It doesn't require demonizing other foods. It simply shifts priority. When protein becomes the focus, everything else tends to self-regulate. Eat protein first, and suddenly hyperpalatable foods lose their grip. Not through discipline, but through biology. Studies even show that eating protein before indulgent foods blunts blood sugar spikes and reduces total intake. In real life, this plays out predictably. Someone eats a high-protein meal, then realizes they no longer want the donuts they thought they needed. Not because donuts are forbidden, but because the signal has already been satisfied. Muscle building, where protein feels like steroids. If protein feels magical anywhere, it's in muscle building. Many men average 80 to 100 grams of protein per day. Many women hover around 50 to 70 grams. When these individuals begin strength training and raise protein intake to optimal levels without changing anything else, the results feel absurd. Strength jumps. Muscles look fuller. Recovery improves. Progress accelerates. This isn't subtle. Coaches can often tell within weeks whether someone is truly hitting protein targets because the response is so pronounced. The difference between some teams hitting protein and hitting it every single day is the difference between modest progress and dramatic transformation. Protein doesn't just help build muscle, it allows training to actually work. Endurance, recovery, and the overlooked advantage. Endurance athletes often assume protein matters less for them. Carbohydrates get the spotlight, and rightly so. Carbs are a primary fuel source for endurance performance. Why it's so hard to get right. If protein is so powerful, why don't more people do it? Because it's harder than it sounds. Modern food environments prioritize carbohydrates and fats. Breakfast foods are sugar-heavy. Restaurants lead with bread and fries. Drinks contain hundreds of calories with zero protein. Protein-centric whole foods require planning, preparation, and intention. Hitting 200+ grams of protein per day consistently is a logistical challenge. It often requires 4 high-protein meals plus supplemental sources. Protein. First, a simple rule that solves most problems. One of the most powerful strategies is deceptively simple. Eat protein first. Don't track calories. Don't micromanage macros. Just prioritize protein at every meal using mostly whole foods. Train regularly. Let appetite and activity regulate the rest. When people do this consistently, calories naturally fluctuate based on training demands. Body composition improves gradually. Muscle increases. Fat decreases. Energy stabilizes. If the average person followed this approach, obesity rates would plummet, not through restriction, but through alignment with human physiology. Not magic, but close enough. Protein doesn't replace effort, it doesn't excuse inactivity, and it doesn't work miracles on the couch. But combined with resistance training and consistent movement, it acts like a force multiplier. It improves nearly every outcome people care about in fitness. That's why it feels magical. Focus on protein. Hit it every day. Train your body. Let everything else become secondary. Do that for 30 to 60 days, and the results will speak for themselves.